I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
And this is this is not Warp Ensemble, which I enjoyed way too much. This is Phrases Love Like Blood. Who is this for?
For Daniel.
Okay, tell the beautiful people how they too can get a song reviewed.
So if you're like, how in the world are people getting their songs reacted to on this channel? There's a couple different ways. One is comment section, any of our socials, just throw it out there. When we have firesides, which is our live streams, you can also suggest them there. If you want to get a way that's a little bit more secure than that, then you can join an alliance and you work with a group of other people to influence the songs that go onto our upcoming list. The option that Daniel chose is you just pay $125.
The filthy capitalist
no,
option.
it's just I know what I want.
Filthy! I want
Pay
filth!
the $125 tier,
Filth.
which is you pay the $125 and you get your song put on the short list immediately. Once you do it with us 3 times or more, then it jumps you down to $75 instead of $125 per song. So we are doing Love Like Blood Phrases. I keep wanting to say phases. But anyway, it's Phrases.
The name of the band is Phrases, right?
No, Love Like Blood is the name of the band.
I think you're right. No, Phrases is the name of the song.
That's what I said.
Love Like Blood is the name of the band.
That's what I said. Well, you people be the judge if that's what I said. Anyway.
I thought you didn't like being judged.
I only like being judged when I know I'm right.
For timely topical political commentary, you can hit us up at Middle America with Vin and Sori. Yeah, so there's that.
You've been shooting some more videos for it, right? I mean, there's the one we did, but
I have. There's one that I'm shooting that's very important. But I need to do a lot of research on it.
You know, Ben, he's not going to throw out stupid information that's not true.
And I need that charger, honey. It's about to go to 0.
Okay.
So hurry up so that we can look at the lyrics while the song is playing.
Plug it in.
Plug it in.
Hurry.
Plug it in.
Okay.
All right,
ready?
just in time. All right, ready? Let's go. Whoa.
In trouble now.
Ominous. I thought this was going to be a soft song.
Melts the winter's freeze. I don't know if I should start with
Peter Steele.
It sounds like him.
falling over. I keep passing out. I am too frightened of the distant shouts. Good
I don't think.
I mean, he's been in a bunch of bands. Who knows?
Well, look it up. Who's the singer?
I don't know. But I
It doesn't show it on that thing. It sounded like him, but it was a little less. It didn't sound exactly like him to me, but.
Killing Joke, Love Like Blood.
Oh, my stomach.
No, it's not Love Like Blood. It's Phrases is a band. But there was also a band called Love Like Blood. That's really interesting. Okay, Phrases. Here we go. Let's try that.
It was so sad.
Really?
Yeah. You didn't think it was sad?
Well, it's. I think maybe. The fact that I thought it was Peter Steele would make me. But here's the actual official video. I don't think it's Peter Steele. I don't think it's him. It's another guy. Because you know how Peter Steele is kind of like tongue in cheek on stuff. Mm-hmm. So I didn't really like feel.
Oh.
You know, because he's he's always tongue in cheek.
Peter Steele does more of like a like in his singing. He does like that sound. This person didn't do.
I'm pretty sure Peter's gonna take that little clip and make something out of it. I'm almost certain. They're a German goth rock metal band. It comes from the song of the same name. The Eisel Brothers, vocals and lyrics. Okay, so it's definitely not Peter Steele. Okay, and did usually there's a little summary on the go to Trello.
Oh no, he didn't put.
He didn't put any. Okay, all right. So that changes things because the entire time I thought it was Peter Steele. So I thought it was like he was being like funny.
Oh.
But now that I don't think he's being funny, then it's a completely different dynamic to the song.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You go and take it away.
It was just sad to me because it to me was reminding me a lot of like how it could be like, you know how you hear the different artists and you hear about how like I can't even remember which artist was talking, but they were talking about and my details might be a little bit off, but you'll get the gist. So he was talking about sexuality within the music industry and talking about how having full access to any girls that he wanted to became boring after a while. And then like, I think that he ended up like taking like bologna and he was like throwing it at the girl or something like that.
Oh,
like,
that was
because it was
Marilyn Manson and Trent Reznor, I think.
Yeah, it had just gotten so normal, and so like sexuality had to take such a weird turn, and like nobody would think, oh, I can't wait to throw bologna on something, you know what I mean? Like it's just, but because there was so much of it, then like when you have so much, it like takes away the excitement of what it is. And so
they had to do something to try to get the novelty aspect of it back. Yeah,
exactly. So it's like, and even he realized that it was messed up, like, but that stuff like that doesn't like leave my mind easily. Like I just, when stuff is wrong with sexuality, it bothers me, and like, I don't know, it makes me feel sick and sad. And I think because I think that sexuality is so important, and I think that it's a beautiful thing when it's right. And so I think I want everybody to experience it right, and the fact that some people never do bothers me. But anyway, like so that is what I had in mind when this is going on, and he's talking about, like, I didn't know at first that he was talking about sexuality until he got further down, and he literally said, in which two words are written, sex and suicide. These are the demons, the drug's bitter taste. And then, but then he talks about this cage, and he's not wanting to die inside of the cage. And so to me, the cage was the trap that you can find yourself in. Like, I think that sexuality is supposed to be freedom. There should be freedom in sexuality, but that when it's done wrong and things are off, and like, then I think that it can become like, and it can become an addiction, which once it hits the point of an addiction, then it's not right anymore. And then now you're trapped by it. And so it's not the freedom of sexuality, but it's the entrapment of it. And so it's weird, when you can have something that can be so good become so messed up. And I think that because we live in a world that's inundated with pornography, it's hard for people to see that there's an actual issue. Like, obviously there's places that talk about it, you know, like there's that, what's that Facebook thing where they talk about, I haven't been on it in a while, but it's a porn site.
Oh,
like,
Fight the New Drug.
Fight the New Drug, yeah. So I think with stuff like that, like these people, they're not religious people, but they just recognize that there's an actual problem here. But I think that, you know, there's also lots of people that are like, no, it's completely good, it's completely okay, but then they don't want their daughters involved in it. But, you know, it's, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But if we can just have an honest conversation. So, yeah, so I felt sad for him because, like, I felt like when you're trapped in this world with, you know, and then he gets suicidal.
He seems to, he says,
I don't want to live in a cage like this.
First it was one blood and now so far away, no wonder, because you're so easy to sway.
Yeah.
So he seems to have resentment towards the girls for their how easy it is to access.
Yeah. Which I think that when you are, you know, you're a music, you know, celebrity.
I just, to me, it's just true, period. And it's something that I, you know, it's kind of piggyback off of that whole review that we did, which it's one of those things where I'm sorry, man, like, again, a lot of this is going to be controversial. People say what they want, but a lot of the, you know, the whole post-sexual revolution, free love, blah, 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 blah. At the end of the day, it generates a certain level of antipathy toward the woman who does that. I just don't know how else to say it. I don't know how else to say it in a way that's not going to be harmful or hurtful, but to me, a lot of guys, you know, because of where we are in the media and things like that, they'll say things all whatever, but like behind closed doors, I know the girls that are respected and you know, cherished, and the ones that are not.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the most really just horrible aspects of this whole thing that's happening to women in our culture, is that there is this horrible game going on where publicly the guy will say, yeah, girl, be sexually liberated, da, 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 da. But there's a deep-seated resentment for those women simultaneously. And on the one hand, there's a projection that the prudish girl with the puritanical morals is like resented, but in actuality, in private, that's the girl that everybody respects. And that's the girl everybody wants to marry.
Yeah.
You know, like, you know, like when hip hop came out, you had Little Kim, who was very post-sexual revolution. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, blah, 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 blah. And then you had Lauryn Hill. And Lauryn Hill would talk about sexuality, but it was always in the context of the transcendental meaning of it, and yada, yada, yada. And you ask any dude in the ghetto, who would you want to go on a date with? Oh, Little Kim. Who will you want to marry? Oh, Lauryn Hill. It's not even a question. It's not even a question.
I think what makes me sad about this conversation and about this topic is that a lot of times girls have issues with their dads.
100%.
And then because they have issues with their dads, then they're like searching for something and they're kind of seeking after something.
Male energy and affirmation.
Yeah. And then when they think that they're going to get it, and then it's not like that, it's just, and I can see how, I've never been in a situation like that, but for some reason it's extremely easy for me to like put myself in that situation and kind of feel what that would feel like. Like, I remember talking to the girls and like each time she thought that, okay, and I feel like it's because like sexuality is so, like, desire can seem like it's through the roof when desire is high. And then once the person kind of gets there and then they're past the situation, like those feelings can be gone. And I think that she lives for that moment before he comes, basically.
It almost immediately metastasizes in some situation, and I could never figure out why, into resentment. Literally. And, you know, I know where I'm going, but there's a story in the Bible about this where a guy's going after a girl, he really, you know, he loves her, blah, 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 and then he gets her.
I think it was making him sick, he loved her so much.
Yeah, he gets her, and then the moment he gets her, he said, the text says, The same love which he had for her before he had her turned to hatred to the same degree after he had her, like that. And I remember the first time I read that, I was like, holy shit. Because that was my experience. And that's one of the reasons why, I believe the Bible to be true. I mean, there's all these apologetics, but it's just the diagnosis of human nature and little nuances like that, and the psychology and things like that. Like, it's unbelievably accurate. But yeah, like it's one of the things where, having sons and having daughters, and I'm very happy that I have daughters and things like that, because like there's this other book, Confessions of a Video Vixen. So there was this girl of a video vixen. So there was this girl who, like, late 90s, early 2000s, she became basically famous all over the hip hop industry because she was in all the big videos, but she would go off with the rappers and yada yada yada. And I remember one time, like, and she became like mega famous. It was like, but she became famous because of a particular sex act that she was doing. Like, literally, like people didn't even know her name. Like, they just gave her this nickname, this sexual whatever. And I remember reading the book, and it was really crazy. And I remember I was reading it because she was talking about Fred Durst. So I was a metalhead at the time. I had just gotten into metal or whatever. And then there's this chapter about Fred Durst. So I'm reading it, and he basically said something like, they were in the heat of battle or whatever, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna love you forever if you blah 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 blah. So she, whatever, and then she goes, she basically said, I could see by the look in his face that it was all bullshit and that he never really, whatever, and she doesn't play the victim because, like, she's kind of spun that into her own business, and she's like a millionaire or something like that now. So she doesn't act like she's a victim when she talks and does interviews and stuff. But it was like, I caught that one moment of humanity of her, and I was like, whoa. And it wasn't like Fred Durst is a son of a bitch or anything like that. It was just, she was just like, yeah, listen, and there's so many. And a lot of people won't tell girls this stuff. They won't tell them because, like we said in the whole video, everything now is just about consent. If she consented, well, that's fine. Doesn't matter about emotionally. Doesn't matter you use her. Doesn't matter why she's giving herself. None of that matters. All that matters is whether she said yes. Okay, no liability. You're good. But this is a big thing, ladies. I will tell you that if there's a lot of guys that, and this is not projecting my own, it's coming out in the song, there's a lot of guys that if you give it up, and you're known for giving it up quickly and early, I'm not saying it's fear, I'm not saying it's right, I wouldn't want you or any of my daughters to go through it, but the facts are the facts. They resent you most of the time. It's like I was watching, when I was prepping for my pornography debate with that young lady. One of the ladies that had left the industry was like, nobody says I want to marry a porn star. We're kind of treated like a roller coaster at Six Flags, but nobody buys a roller coaster. You buy a car, and that's where you take your family or whatever. You go to a roller coaster for the novelty, but nobody.
Yeah. And
it was like, whoa, like, because people are being told that sexuality is just an animal drive, it's an evolutionary drive by which you pass on your genetic material to another host that can then germinate another host of genetic material whereby he or she can then go and repeat process ad infinitum. And all the transcendental aspects of sexuality is taken from people, and that's just simply not true. We're not just animals. We're not. And I'm not going to get into a big giant argument. All I'm saying is we're not. And when you engage in sexuality at just the animal-based level, it once again benefits men and does significant harm to women. And I think when you look at the song, it does significant harm to him too. Mm-hmm. Because I think he's now trapped in this cage of meaningless sex. Because on the one hand, emotionally and transcendentally, he doesn't like the experience after. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the reasons for that type of resentment afterwards is, and Freud talked about this, like post-coital guilt or whatever. I think one of the reasons for the resentment is that you know that you have just used another human being, that you're a horrible person for doing so, but you have nowhere to put that guilt, so then the guilt gets reorganized and channeled into the resentment against this person.
Yikes.
And that's why female sexuality has always been demonized by the religious and secular alike. You know, the secularists demonize female sexuality too, just in a completely different way. So he's looking at it like, you know, a cage. I thought that in which two words were written, sex and suicide, and then he talks about the bird being in the cage and things of that nature.
But he says in his cage, I don't want to die.
Right.
So, in one sense, he's talking about suicide, but then he's saying, I don't want to die.
Right.
But I think he feels like there's literally no way out of the cage except by way of suicide.
Well, it's a horrible vicious cycle, because it's not like a dude's going to say, well, I'll never have sex again so I can avoid this feeling, because now you're driven by the very good, God-given, or animal, whatever you want to say. The drive for sexuality is very, very good. You know, that's why I tell my boys during the, you know, our man time or whatever, I say, you know, thank God for your sexuality and thank him every day, because that's great. It's one of the best things of all time. I said, look, fellas, God could have made sexuality extremely painful or laborious, but he didn't. He made it very awesome and then commanded us to be fruitful and multiply. So this has got to be in the top 10 of God's gifts to human beings. Like, there's no stigma about sexuality in our house. The problem, though, becomes is when you take it from that high perch and then you just bastardize it and you put it in the dirt and the mud and you roll around in it. And we all know that we're taking something that's amazing and destroying it. But people have no logical, rational, spiritual, emotional categories as to how to even interpret why they feel the way they feel about it. Most people don't even know why they feel empty after meaningless sex. They have no idea why, because they've been so cut off from their creator. But I think that this song is really kind of touching on the mysterious aspects of it. Of, on the one hand, he's driven physically for it, but on the other hand, he's kind of trapped by it, because he still has his drives, and he also has a constituency of willful people who will, you know, satiate that desire. So it's brutal. I don't want to live in a cage like this, but it doesn't stop to bleed. I don't even want to go there, but yeah. Anyway, what do you give the song?
9. I don't know, maybe even a 10, because it's such an important topic. I think it's important the way that he puts it out there. I think that a lot of times people don't put it out there that explicitly. So I'm gonna go with a 10 for meaning. Yeah, a 10 for me.
Yeah. I think it's a very, very important message. I don't know if I can give it a 10.
Well, you're not a Peter Steele person. I know it's not Peter Steele, but it did have that vibe.
Yeah, it's probably a 9. Good solid 9. Good solid 9 for me. There you are.
Thanks, Daniel.
Vin out.
Sorry out.
Gone.
the